We will call the August Richland County Public Works Standing Committee to order. Proof of notification, Mr. Elder.
Yes.
Agenda approval would be in order.
I'll make that
Mr. McGee, Mr. Cosgrove. All those in favor of approving the 14-point agenda signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. All right. We have an agenda. Previous minutes from last month's meeting. Anybody see anything wrong with any of those? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve as presented. Mr. Cooey. I'll second. All those in favor of approving last month's meeting minutes signify by saying aye, please. Aye. Opposed, same sign. All right. Public comment. Do we have any public comment today? Seeing none, we'll move on to number 6. Courthouse Administration Report Update. Mr. Clint, you are up, if you're on.
Okay, can you hear me, Mr. Chair?
We can.
Okay, there's the property management report, which should be in your folder for August 8th. Give everybody just a minute. Different items that we're looking at is we do have the water fountain in there. We do have it complete to the best of my knowledge. I'll let Supervisor Nelson expound upon that if there's any other information that you need to share with us, Randy.
Nope, just with, other than 2 of the water fountains are installed, the third one, still have to work on that on the courtroom floor. But other than that, the other 2 are up and running on the second and third floors.
Okay, and then we've got our courthouse key and security project still on standby with adoption of the building policy, though. We are committed to having the first inventory completed by April 15th of 2023. So we do have some time yet, but we're looking to eventually get moving on that once we get these other things off the plate. DOJ grant application for the second round, still working with Shannon on the proposed projects that are underway. We did have a meeting. We need to have another follow-up meeting to see where we're at on trying to reallocate those monies from a key card fob project to see if we can add on to our ADA door assist project, continuing to develop. Courthouse roof repair. I actually do have an update on this email sent to myself, and I'm sure Randy saw it this morning from Russ. He talked with Interstate. They have a tentative start date on August 29th to do the change order. That's the flat roof that's overhead the jailhouse, or I'm sorry, the jail and clerk's office and all that. So tentative start date is in place. Window replacement. I know that Randy's been working with a vendor, I think, and through Cheryl. I would defer to Randy to explain on where we're at with the window replacement.
With the window replacement, I talked to 2 contractors. Still waiting on numbers from Wisconsin Glass out of Reedsburg, and then Beaver Glass is going to be here Monday out of Reedsburg. They're going to be here, or Baraboo, I think that's Baraboo or Reedsburg, one of the 2. And they're going to be here Monday to do their measuring, give us some ideas on what our best options are with replacement of the whole window, or whether it's just glass on the south side of the building.
Excellent. Thank you, Randy. If you don't mind talking, if we had any movement on the metal siding estimates as well.
Also, I have 2 contractors. Hoping they were trying to get their numbers to me by today, but obviously they didn't. I have 2 contractors working on getting numbers for the metal replacement above the lobby entrances and around the elevator shaft. So we're waiting on those numbers also.
Our space needs assessment for the first floor. We are now on our 3rd meeting with myself, Cheryl, MIS, land conservation, zoning, ambulance, and Randy joined us this last week as well in sorting out our project for ambulance leaving and then to reoccupy that space. We kind of have a tentative timelines in place of September 6th, when ambulance is anticipating on kind of being full out and operational over at the ambulance garage. Anticipating on using the month of September to take care of some of the existing maintenance issues that we think we can touch up with, and then beginning to occupy that in October with land conservation and zoning. We have to give notice to I think it's Kelly, in regards to ending the lease by October 31st, but land conservation is okay to occupy at their current place up through December. Randy, is there anything else that you need to talk about in that project?
No.
Pine Valley Farm lease and land swap, again, we've kind of put the hold on that one until we can complete the O project. And then the Simons UW campus roofing project, we're still waiting on some retainages with Malley. Lesson learned again is I don't think we'll be doing business with Malley in the near future. And then we do have a warning order for us then too to take a look at the copper top roof, as that has been re-added into the capital improvement plans for borrowing. Mr. Chair.
Anybody have questions on what Clint has presented so far? Mr. Carroll?
I was just curious what the problem was with Malley.
I've had it described to me as they've had some management changeovers, and so finishing out the punch list items is what's holding us up. It's very simple stuff as Russ describes it to me, and we're just waiting for them to complete it before we issue final payment.
Okay. We are satisfied with that. Do you want to move on, Clint, to your budget? That was 6A, is that what that means? 2023 budget summary?
We do have the 2023 budget. I don't know, did we get it added to your packets? Maybe we did not. And I don't know, Randy, I doubt that you brought copies for folks. Maybe
I did not bring copies for everybody, but I've got my numbers here.
Okay, I guess then I can, let me work on pulling it up, Randy, if you can start talking through it. And then,
Okay.
because I think we have minimal changes to it from the previous year, and then I will try to get it thrown up. Do we have the screen going right now?
Yeah.
Okay, let me see if I can get it thrown there. Go ahead, Randy.
Yeah, with the numbers that I've got set up, or with the budget for going into 2023, last year we were at 206,000 for our budget. Going into 2023, it looks like we're going to be in the 221,000, but it's kind of deceiving because $7,300 of that is wages and insurance and all that stuff. Another 7,000 is building utilities, heat and electrical and all that stuff. The numbers of course, have all gone up in the city for electrical and heat and gas and all that. So that's up another 7,000. We increased those in the budget, on the budget lines. And other than that, in my supplies and the other stuff that I have to deal with throughout the building, actually, I'm only going to go up about $400 because I deleted some stuff out of there. And then with raising a couple other things, it offset, and I'm going to only be about $400 over my budget from last year. So, I mean, like I said, the numbers look deceiving just because of the 14,000 with utilities and wages.
Can
We're
I
not
just,
seeing
Yeah.
anything yet, Clint, if you're trying to share.
oh, here, I've got it. Let me get it. I just got
Okay.
to rotate it and then I'll share it here. 1 second. View clockwise and share. And Randy, hopefully this is the same document that you're talking off of.
Yep.
Okay.
435, yep. Yeah, you can see if you go down to the line item where it says Richland Utilities, we were at 40,000. That's our electrical, it sounds like. I increased it $5,000 because the previous year was 46,000. Hopefully we'll, depending on the temperatures this winter. You drop down to heat. It's at 10,000, whatever that is. Yeah, it's at $10,000 and we revised it up to 12 just because we were running around that little over 10,000 mark. My supplies I kept the same, even though we're getting a lot of increases from distributors. I kept it at the 10,000 because I think with all the stuff I've done in this past year, I think I can keep those numbers below that 10,000 again. I'm gonna try. Hopefully with that DOJ grant, we can cut a couple $1,000s off that supply this year because with that DOJ grant, if we can get those supplies for like paper towels and cleaning stuff on that grant. That'll come off my supply list for the whole year. Hopefully, we're gonna be able to purchase the whole year's worth of supplies from that DOJ grant. So that 10,000, we should be safe. With the new equipment over 5,000, well, that's all gotta go to the committee and board anyway, so I just took that 2,500 off of that. That's way down near the bottom there. New equipment over $5,000. That 25, I just zeroed out, took that off. Rental of the skid steer, of course, we're hoping to have ours by the end of the year, late fall, first of the year. So we won't have that $1,300. So I took 300 off of there because we're gonna have some, if we have to have fuel, even though we do got a fuel line, a fuel budget line, we can do fuel, we can do any kind of repairs or anything like that, anything, blow a tire. So we have a little buffer there for that. Contracted services, you can see that's gonna go up $3,400 because we got a bill last year from Great River Water Treatment. And they, instead of billing in this year of 2022, they always send it in the following year. So that doesn't show up on my budget till the following year. So I got hit with a $1,300 or $1,500 bill the beginning of this year. So it makes that number look really bad. So I put that under contracted services for this year or going into 2023. So you'll see that difference. And then we have our normal ones, Aramark, Will Kill, elevator service. They're all included. So that's why the numbers are gonna go up there. Other than that, everything else is, like I said, it's only gonna see about a difference of $400 in my normal day-to-day line items.
Anybody have questions for Randy on the budget presented on the screen? Mr. Langrick, are we gonna approve these as presented or what's our work here?
You certainly can if you want to accept and make the recommendation to Finance and Personnel. It's an opportunity for you folks. If there's something different that you'd want to petition to myself and Finance and Personnel, there's that as well. But you can take an action to accept and forward.
Hey, what's your thoughts? I'll make that motion. Mr. McKee makes the motion. Seconded by Mr. Cosgrove. Any further discussion on the budget as presented by Mr. Nelson? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, we will move it on to Personnel and Finance. Up next. Barb, MIS Administrative Report and Update. Please.
So we don't. Connecting. There we go. There we go. For administrative report, we're starting to move forward with the EMS building. That's slowly going. We don't have fiber connectivity and don't have a window for that. We're hoping to have it done before the 1st of September. However, that's not on us, that's on REC, and they haven't gotten back to us. Things are progressing there. The phone system's being programmed. We also are moving forward. You're going to see tomorrow or Tuesday night the contracts for the Sheriff's Department for the Tower project will be presented Tuesday night, so we can continue to work on that. The other major projects are just keeping everybody up and running. We do struggle a little bit with the Sheriff's Department. We've been having problems with the radio towers again. Other than that, there isn't a lot to report. I will be out of the office at the end of September for 2.5 weeks, but we'll have staff available for coverage and I'll be available remotely. So if you want to move on to budget.
I would. I do have a How serious are, I've heard rumblings of being shut down at the dispatch council center several times. Is that correct? And how serious? I know our system is old, but, is there anything we can do in the meantime to try and make it any better?
No, staff are just called in the middle of the night and it usually happens in the nighttime for whatever reason. It just, the officers have no communication back to the dispatch center. Sometimes they can hear each other, but dispatch can't hear them, which is a safety problem. And that's definitely, usually Jason will come down, punch down wires, tighten up connections, those types of things to make it work. And so far, we've been able to keep going until we can get the new consoles.
And any timeline on the council? I'm sure it's what, several years?
No, we're hoping in January.
Okay,
If the contracts are signed Tuesday night, by January, we should have new consoles.
great. That sounds much better. All right, yeah, if you want to work on budget, go.
All right, so in your package, you have 3 different budget sheets. There are 3 of them. I'm gonna hop around just a little bit. 29 is an easy one. That's a video conferencing, non-lapsing fund. We put $4,000 into that. That really supports the video conferencing in the jail. That doesn't change. It's really just a fund that we use to maintain that. The only charges you'll ever see to it are the maintenance fees. Unless there's a piece of equipment that we have to replace or work on that isn't covered under maintenance. Then the rest of the budget is a little more complicated. This year, and Clinton may want to speak to this, I will do my best. We are doing a change, so we've created a county tech fund. In the budget sheets, it's referred to as 42. That'll be changing again to a different fund number because the preference is not to have it as a non-lapsing. They would like it to be an annual one because we will be using borrowed funds for larger purchases. And so in the 42, we've moved everything out of the 10-5182 account into the 42 account. This separates what it takes to run the MIS department from what it takes to run the rest of the county. It kind of gives you a clearer picture. That being said, it's not a good picture because certain departments like sheriff or HHS, they have separate funding, so they have computer lines of their own, which it makes sense to keep because they can reimburse for those tech funds. But this gives you a picture of most of the rest, like courthouse ones that don't have an income line. So when we look at the 42-5143, that really is what we're using to fund the county for tech. And sorry, mine's being really slow to come up. And as soon as I can get it to come up, chat about it. Just gonna switch to my budget folder. I've got them in there. So when we talk about these and we look at computer hardware and software support, there's $25,980. That includes your programs for, sorry, that includes things like antivirus and licensing for the county for the year. Maintenance agreements, those are your smart nets that you have on your network equipment and your access points. Computers, printers, and networks, there's $50,000. That purchases computers and laptops for departments that don't have it within their budget and aren't reimbursable. It also purchases printers and things such as that we use throughout the networks in the county. Maintenance and upgrades, those are things like parts for your computer that we replace. And if you look on that line last year, it says we spent 54,000. That's where they put the AS400 last year. And I'm not really sure that was a nice place to put it, but it's where it got put. Computer software, I'm sorry, I skipped a line. New equipment over 5,000, we're not gonna use that line anymore. I know there's 32,000 in there. We're gonna make a change on that because that is all gonna be out of the borrowed funds. Where that's the direction that we've chosen to go as a county, and so that won't be in there. Computer software is things like, trying to, the website and those types of agreements. If we have to have licensing for network equipment, that comes on to there. Contracted services, that is contracting through JComp or other places. Note that that's only $2,000. If you go to other counties, your contracted services are significantly higher. We're really lucky. Our staff that we have are able to do those things. And with an anticipated staff changeover, you will want to make a significant change in that line. If Jason leaves the county, quite frankly, you're going to want to increase that probably 4 times. Then I don't have anything in Bill's line detail. So the bottom line here is 161,000. The office licensing is not in there. We need to go to Office 365. We can skim out a couple of years. We're going to try not to do that, just to extend the money and save it because it's expensive. You're going to see a $90,000 to $180,000 a year in those costs when it comes. There'll be changes, there'll be savings in other areas. You won't have to pay for your Barracuda subscriptions for your email. There'll be savings that will counteract that, but it's going to be expensive when we hit that, and it's coming. We won't be able to not do it eventually. The short-term borrowing, that will cover some of this, but software, we can't move to short-term borrowing, is my understanding. So if you look, that there isn't really much difference there from last year in those line items. And if you look at Fund 10, 5182, that really is just mostly salaries. And that is up due to now this only reflects the 4.5%. I know that at finance yesterday, they voted to go to 5%. Until we get direction for the department heads to redo all of their budget sheets continually, is a lot of effort. I'm not complaining as a department head, but until finance decides what they want to do with the raises, I don't know what you want the department heads to do. If you want us to continually reconfigure these and resend them to you, I don't know how much value is in that.
This is Clint. No, we'll hold what we have for the preliminary budget that's been submitted. The 0.5% we would add post discussions, just like we're still going to have to add health insurance if there's changes in that, as well as any other changes that come out of our exchange in the hearings next Wednesday and follow-on meeting on September 6th, I believe.
Thank you. So like I said, the 5182 doesn't reflect any of those changes. And the only other minimal costs in there, if you look, you're going to see are $150 for diesel fuel. And that actually probably should go to county tech because that just runs the generators that power the county. That's the only reason that MIS has diesel fuel for their department. And then $500 in office supplies for toner and paper. And registrations, $200. We go to the government tech conference every year. And we haven't done that in the last couple of years because of COVID. That's all I've got.
Anybody with questions on what Barb has presented? Mr. Carroll?
Yeah, I'm assuming on the 17th for the more formal budget review process, there'll be column totals so we can see the totals.
I will certainly put those up. I can do that for the
Great,
17th.
thanks.
Anybody else? I would entertain a motion to move this on to personnel and finance like we did with Clint's budget. Mr. Cooley? Mr. Cosgrove seconds. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor of approving this and moving it on signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. All right. We'll move that one on. Let's move to Josh, number
No.
8.
Is it Josh's? I'm sorry, I thought I have 2 more things. Oh, that's all right. You can go to Josh, sorry.
No, what do you have for me?
I just had 2 quick approvals. They're easy.
Sure.
The one was approval. I did have on here approval for the phone contract changes. We're not gonna do that here. Clinton signed that contract, and just know that the phone is gonna change to include all long distance as an all-inclusive. Clinton signed that, and that's done. So that can come off of approval here. The other 2 things I have are a 48 port switch, which is number 10, I'm sorry. This switch will go down and run all of this building, and then we'll take a switch that is currently doing that, that's only 24 ports, and put it over into the east end of the building to run that for the new land conservation and zoning office. So the total for this is $8,467.25, and I just need to get permission to order that.
And we will install that ourselves, Barbara,
Yep,
is this contract?
Nope, Jason will do that.
Okay. Mr. Cooley, I'll second it for discussion. Anybody have discussion on this? If not, we'll vote. All those in favor of approving the 48 switch for $8,467.25 signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. All right, next item, Barb.
The VM renewal, Clinton, did you get an answer on the funding source for this?
Can you help me back? Where were we talking about it? Were we going to place it for
Borrowed funding.
borrowed funding? Yes, we were able to do this. We called out to Carol the last time we were together, and she said that that would include an IT project, which we had the borrowed language for.
Okay, so VMware vSphere is what we use to run the servers. And the reason that it is software, and I wanted that clarified, this will go on the servers. It's a 3-year software. And the total, I apologize, I don't have the sheet done with the total. That was an oversight on mine. Second, so I'll get that for you. It's the quote, but it's both of the bottom numbers because it's a 3-year price. 407616, which just a decimal point, God, I hope. And this,
Those top numbers in too, Barb?
no, those are 1-year costs.
Okay.
And it makes more sense to do the 3-year if you look at the numbers. It's quite a cost savings, and we're gonna have to do it anyway. So it's a total of $91,9248, and the funding for this is the borrowed money for 2022. So it's Fund 92, 2022 funds.
92.8.
$9,192.48.
48. Okay. All right, I would entertain a motion to approve a 3-year contract for VMware and Sphere Standard. Somebody. Mr. Richard McKee. Mr. Cooey seconds. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of spending $91,92.48 for this signify by saying aye. 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 Opposed, same sign. Okay.
No, I'm done.
All right, now we can go back to Mr. Josh. Sorry about that.
Sorry.
All right, we'll start with the monthly paid bills underneath administration report. So you'll see the big ticket items on there, obviously, like payroll. Most of the other stuff is maintenance. Fuel, that's a big one. We all know what the fuel prices are at right now. Another big expenditure is Morton Salt. That's our salt for the county roads, just county roads this year. We're still anticipating the state stuff to be brought in, but that's a separate funding. And then the other big ticket item is a cold in place that took place down on County Road E. That's where they came and pulverized and relayed the base material down. And we did end up saving, I think, just about $18,000 to $20,000 on that. A little less than last month, but not too bad.
We contracted on fuel.
Not this year.
Is it common to contract fuel since we know?
Typically, it is common to contract the fuel price, especially in our kind of fields of work. We used to do it. It wasn't getting done, but we will be doing it from now on.
Advertise. Or, well,
Basically, solicit for bids.
yep. I guess we can, if anybody's got questions, we can make the motion to approve and second and discuss, or we can discuss either way. Normally we discuss them and then approve them at the end is what we've done in the past. So if you have questions on any of the bills, anybody? Mr. Cosgrove, seconded by Mr. Cooley, motion to approve and a second. Any other discussion, gentlemen? All those in favor of approving the bills as presented signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed, same sign. All right. Moving on down to projects for 2022.
Outside of the project, that's a new thing. We did finally fill a empty mechanic slot that we had. We did hire a Brandon Hernan, whose grandpa actually used to work for the highway shop. So he's starting with us the 29th of this month. Highway 60 and 193, we're reaching the end of that. They've finished all the mainline paving and now they're just going back and doing the intersections, and they'll still have rumble strips to put in and paint, of course, but that's going pretty good. H Bridge is still on track to end in September. They should have the south side in Buttman poured. County Road BR, we did finish paving that as of day before yesterday. All we have left to do out there is just gravel, and then eventually in late September, we'll get it painted once we finish up all our other projects. County Road E, today we'll be finishing up the base layer of asphalt, and then Monday, Tuesday next week, we'll finish off with the last layer, and then we'll still have to go back and do shoulder gravel paint, so on and so forth. Seal coating, that is delayed a little bit. We will be starting with that at the end of this month, probably on the 29th at this point. Sand and salt shed, we're still in the same position we were last month. All the footings and pylons, columns have been poured. We're just waiting for that company to come back in. They should be with us hopefully middle of next week by anticipation for the T-wall placement. They do have a couple small repairs to do to those pillars. Good news, I did hear from Lakeside, our trucks, the 3 trucks that we ordered in 2021 were built. They're all 3 built. 2 of them are still waiting final inspection at the factory, and 1 is in process of heading over to Lakeside for its inspection there. And then all 3 of them will be going straight down to Monroe Truck to be built. So by the time they get built, I anticipate to see these trucks probably January or February of next year at this point. It takes Monroe roughly about 3 months to get them built. And that's what I have for you, Mr. Chair.
Anybody have questions on the projects? A lot of projects going on in the county, so. And good news on the trucks. Let's move to number 8C, your budget, Mr. Elder.
Okay, you'll have 3 things in your packets that we uploaded. The first one will do a copy of the 2023 funds. This takes what we get in tax levy, which is 1,663,500, and this shows the breakdown of how we spread that out. County trunk bridge system, paying for the H bridge, we budgeted 100,000 in that to continue on with those payments. County aid for the small bridge, which is the 50/50 cost shares for culverts, we'll have about $14,471.30 to pay out to the township. And then for administration, we put 220,000 in that account to cover the excess wages that are typically not covered by revenue. And then trucks, equipment, next year we're budgeting for 1 plow truck due to availability and the big increase in prices. They just through the roof. Well, we could get 1 truck for a couple years ago. or actually 2 trucks that we could get a couple years ago is only paying for maybe 1 truck now. And with even some difference there. So, and then, we're also budgeting for a loader replacement, which we'll do underneath a lease. Better off for the county, better off for the equipment. And the remaining of that, we're putting back into highway maintenance, and then, of course, that funds us for road projects and maintenance and thereon. The next worksheet we'll take a look at is the budget worksheet for 2023. This is something we just finished up with this morning because we just got it this week. This is where you can kind of see everything broke down a little bit more. Expenses from 2021, actual expenses up through the end of June of this year, and then actual estimated what we anticipate to spend for the rest of the year, and then the recommended budget for 2023. You'll see the revenues, we get in their tax levy, what we get in revenues from the state, and again, the GTA, they don't release those numbers till probably late September, so we have to take our best guess at what we're gonna get out of that, so I had to make a few phone calls and go through some information, but this is what I'm anticipating around about numbers, what we should be seeing in GTA, which will hopefully be an increase from last year. And then overall expenditures, what we're looking to expend. Now, keep in mind, there is 500,000 identified from short-term borrowing. And then also what we're gonna use in the GTA to help fund us in our projects. Keep in mind that the wheel tax, the 300,000 that we roughly get from that, pays for about 15 miles worth of seal coat. And then the rest of the 500,000 we do in short-term borrowing is what we use for cost share matches on our programs to get those projects done. And then you're basically looking at County Road 00 for next year, County Road W, and then Highway J. Those are the 3 big roads we'll be hitting next year as far as repaving. W may wait another year just because of the blacktop plant location, because obviously we can't afford to send trucks an hour just one way just to get a load of blacktop. Just the time on that. So that's what we're looking at here. The last sheet to really take a look at, this is an overview of years past. You'll see all the way over at left, about 20 years ago, this is what we were getting in tax levy. And then if you go all the way to the bottom, this is what we're getting in tax levy now, which shows the overall reduction from years past. This column right here, State of Wisconsin General Transportation Aid. This is what we used to get in General Transportation Aid when we invest a lot more in roads. And you'll see it slowly went down. It kind of bounces around a little bit depending on the year, depending on how much money we spend. And since about, 2016, 2017 on forward, when the county started to invest more money in roads, you'll see things kind of on an uptick again. So that's where we want to see, because it goes off a 6-year average of expenditures from the county. And then it does have a cap that we can't go over 15% of what we got from the year before. And if that's all I have for you, Mr. Chair, on the summary of our budget.
Anybody with questions for Mr. Elder? If not, I would entertain a motion again to move this on like we did the other 2. So moved by Mr. Cosgrove. I would second that. Anybody else, any other questions? All those in favor of sending it forward signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay. Got left. Yeah. Number 12.
All right, yeah. Can you hear me now? All right, Josh, are you driving the bus right now? Can you let it open? I don't know that it made it to the website, but it is in the committee folder. Number 12, tax deed. So I guess while that's opening, I'll provide an update on the other 2 properties. We did take 3 properties in July through tax deed foreclosure. And actually 2 of them got bought back by the prior property owner. The Marlow property in the town of Richwood was repurchased, and we just received the money order prior to me coming in today for the residents in Ithaca. So those 2 parcels were bought back for all of the delinquent taxes and interest that were incurred, plus additional fees. So the county won't have to go through the process of cleanup or eviction in those situations and trying to sell. That does leave the motel in Buena Vista, which surprisingly, the former owners have not tried to buy back. So that means that we will need to go about the business of doing an assessment to present for sale. I do think it would be advisable for the county, considering the dilapidated condition of the buildings, that we sell it with a contingency that the buyer is responsible for raising the buildings and cleaning the site. That being said, there is, we'll have to make consideration for the assessed value, that it would be advantageous for whoever bought it to invest in buying it and invest in cleaning it up. Obviously, this is not something I have vast amounts of experience in. Attorney Wendell is online to provide input and feedback. On the tax summary here, if you go towards the bottom, Josh, it does have the assessed value. It has 3.6 acres for a total assessed value of $249,600, which is clearly outdated based on what the buildings once were. State statute does not dictate what the assessed value must be. It just dictates that the county board or designated committee is responsible for assigning the assessed value. By state statute, you cannot accept a bid lower than your assessed value, but you can accept a bid lower than the highest bid, assuming, or as long as you provide in writing that why it was beneficial for the county to accept that lower bid. And Attorney Wendell can pipe in at any time, and in my opinion, that situation may arise should somebody submit a lower bid but prove they have the means and abilities to clean it up properly, more so than somebody who may have the highest bid. That being said, I will open the floor for discussion or questions, because that's really all the info I have. If you want to refresh, there is a statute for sale of delinquent tax real estate, and then I also included the pictures from before just to refresh on the status of the buildings. But Mike, do you have any input on this?
No, I was just nodding along because you actually have a really solid grasp of 7569.
Is that, Mr. Wendell, is that, Mr. Williamson here, is that the new law or whatever Mr. Jeff told us about, or what was that one? Can you refresh our memory on that one, please?
So that was called Act 216. We discussed it during a recent Wisconsin Association of Corporation Councils meeting, and a room full of municipal lawyers were stumped by this law. It was, from what I understand, pushed through by the Wisconsin Realtors Association, which is fine, that is their purview. However, it's left a couple different questions outstanding. The main takeaway of Act 216, though, is that previously, when a property was seized and then was set for sale, only those with homesteader rights over the property were eligible for any proceeds from that sale. Now it is any landowner. And we have to hold on to any proceeds from sale for 5 years and make a reasonable effort to locate the former owner. What a reasonable effort constitutes has not been defined as yet.
And proceeds that would be returned are proceeds that we have received in excess of expenses, back taxes. So currently, I think if I remember correctly, we're sitting around $34,000 in back taxes, interest, and special assessments, including the title search fees, certified letter mailings. So the only way we would be required to send proceeds or attempt to send proceeds to the former owner is if we were to bring in funds in excess of all of our expenses.
Comments, Mr. Carroll?
Yeah, I'm seeing that it's zoned 1 acre is residential and 2.6 is commercial. Would it make it more desirable for someone if it was zoned differently?
That's not necessarily zoning. That's the valuations assigned by the assessor.
So what is the zoning then?
That would be, that's a good question. That would be for the zoning office. I don't, the treasurer's office doesn't track that
Okay.
specific zoning.
What happens if you can't? So, what happens to the excess funds?
So if you can't find the previous owner within 5 years, after 5 years, the county is able to recognize that as revenue for the county. Again, the only time we would approach that is if we actually make money on a property after paying off the taxes, interest, everything involved. We did, so as Attorney Wendell said at the Corp Council's conference, that's a mouthful. They discussed this, and then we had our state treasurers conference shortly thereafter, and we discussed it. The treasurers kind of came to the agreement that we should all try to approach this in the same manner, county by county, to be uniform. So we all took the stance that upon the taking of a property, we will send notice to the former owner, to the property, or the billing address on record, which is the most recent address on the tax bill, notifying them that they no longer own the property, and then including wording that if there are proceeds, they would be entitled to it. And we send that by certified mailing. I did that, and I received it back as undeliverable, just as I have all of our other certified mailings to this address. So as far as the due diligence, from the stance that the county treasurers are taking statewide, we have fulfilled that, unless some other precedent is set by court somewhere else. Hopefully not here.
So we do own this one now.
We do own it, yep.
So are we, Mr. Wendell, are we liable for any injuries that may occur on this dilapidated building?
So long as they are from neglect or any of the standard liability issues, we're not obligated to like put up caution tape or a fence or anything like that.
Anybody else have questions? I really don't know where to go with this. A lot different than all the other properties that Mr. Cooey and Mr. Cosgrove and I have been in on, and I think Mr. McKee has been in on a few as well.
First thing, we need to find out what it's zoned. It's gotta be commercial. Can we pull this up in GIS or someone to show that? Or can you
Yeah.
pull that up quick?
Yeah.
Just to see what it's really zoned. I mean, that's crazy money for stuff that you're looking at it. I mean, the 34,000 is a lot out of that property and where I see it, but.
So my viewpoint on this side is, I would look at this as the county probably is not going to get our 35,000 out of it. If we can sell it for minimal dollars to a party that guarantees raising the buildings and cleaning up the property, that will save the county from having to do so. And at the end of the day, it benefits all parties involved.
What is
So-
the first, what's the house number for it?
Go ahead, Mr. Carroll.
Do I recall this is also in a floodplain?
Driveway is, I think.
Correct. The floodplain goes to the buildings, but the buildings are not.
I do by that parcel number there.
Do you need the parcel number, Barb?
Sure I do.
Right across from 50.
You just, like I could drive you to it.
I would just use your GIS.
Here we go. Yep, there we go. And how is it?
Go under tax.
There's a lot. It has the value. The problem is if it's gonna cost $50,000 to clean it up,
It's gonna tell us, isn't
or
it?
100.
Yep,
I have
residential,
no
commercial,
idea. Now,
both.
the other problem with it is the sewer's bad, right? The sewer will have problems because it's tied in with.
That's the same thing as, what do we have?
Intersection.
Yep, it's in,
Okay, it's.
there is a lift station in the parking lot for the Sextonville Sanitary District.
And it's, now, the next question would be, okay, do you have to use that? Or can it,
Because
whoever
we-
buys it, put a conventional?
Property type is real
Sewer.
estate, personal property.
Peaches, is that part of it?
Negative, that's owned by that's a separate parcel owned by another party. I can't answer that.
See, that's the question, you know, right? I mean, if, I can understand why they'd be separate. Because the motel's gonna use much more
Is
than,
valuation the same as?
you know, it probably made sense, but
zoning?
it all worked. They were
That's what
putting
it
that in to
is.
tie that
I
all
didn't
together,
think I
but
could
all them
see it.
houses and everything above that probably have their own septic.
You have to pay for it if you see it.
Or you could look up beaches.
Come on, sweetheart.
Sanitary permit.
We're not.
They got their own anyway. Is that information available through what they gave us here last time?
Not showing me now.
It would actually be Buena Vista. They're the ones that control the Sextonville Sanitary
Oh,
District.
that's-
Mhm.
Mr. Jeff, is valuation the same as zone?
Negative.
No, that's,
No.
and we're trying to find that on the website. I actually may call Mr. Bindle, but,
It says
if I can get,
G1 residential and G2 commercial.
Correct. That's classifications for property tax purposes. That's not necessarily zoning.
I'm finding the.
Mike can answer it.
Yeah.
Mike can answer one of these questions, probably the sanitary, the septic side of it, and he can answer all of that.
you get,
I don't even know what value you put on that. We kind of need to know, okay, so who do we talk to? You know, Gary tears down a lot of buildings and stuff. What it would he could probably give us some type of ballpark number.
Mr. Chair,
yes, sir.
unless there's some urgency, it sounds like we ought to gather some more info before we make any action.
Yeah, I would agree. I think if we get our questions put together and, we can talk to Mr. Manning and get Mr. Bindle to stay or answer our questions as far as, and, put it on to next month. I would agree with that.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
this is Tiffany Olson on by video. I was able to link the GIS mapping page into the chat. I'm not sure if that's helpful.
Yeah, that's where we're at. That's what we're looking at.
Is that the one Tiffany brought up? Yeah. 'Cause I know there's a spot, I've looked, but I don't remember how to get to it. It'll actually tell you how it's zoned. But, which, we've got other questions than that. I agree with, I don't know if we need formal action. In form of a motion, Mr. Wendell, do we need to have formal action to,
A motion to postpone would be appropriate.
Mr. Carroll's gonna make that motion. Mr. Cooey seconds it. We'll postpone it till next month. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Thanks, Tiffany, for trying to help.
You're welcome.
Oh, I think we're to 13, future agenda items. Anything that we're not getting, we're still working on parcels. I like to see that. We're finally getting a couple, hammering away at a couple more every month. I don't know how big Jeff's stack is over there, but I believe it's still,
We're working through them. Once we took these last three, I am holding off until we print the sale book on September 1st, because that's when we assess the next year of tax liens. So then come September, I can start fresh on all of the tax certificates that would be assessed against these properties and start doing these in batches, I guess would be the phrase.
anybody with ideas or suggestions on future agenda items? If not, I guess we're ready for adjournment. Mr. Clint, do you have anything to add before we let you go?
No, I do not. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome. Motion to adjourn would be appropriate. Mr. McKee. Seconded by Mr. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. We are adjourned until sometime in next month. September. Perfect. Thank you.